Hi, Lily.
Hey Larry, how's it going?
It's good. It's good to see you.
Nice to see
Always.
you. Always, always.
Um, so I wanted to talk a little bit today about the subject that I think you know how fascinating I find it in
hmm
terms of Western healing and Eastern healing. Um, and it's, um, talking about what happens in the subtle body and our subtle anatomy, more of a Eastern concept, and what happens in our physical body. And according to the prana. So I titled it, What is Prana? Understanding the Life Force. And prana, I'm not sure exactly when I became so interested. I think it was during a lecture I heard from Dr. Robert Savoda a long time ago, maybe 20 years ago. And
Wow.
my teachers always talked about it. And then in yoga classes, you talk about prana.
Right.
Um,
I don't
so
think
we'll
we
try
ever
to
get
give a,
too in depth on it though, so this is good. I'll learn a lot and our audience will learn. This is good.
yeah, I hope so. We're good. I hope I can share good information
Always
and
do.
we could always expand upon it.
Yeah.
Uh, so prana is our life force. It's everything in the universe, and it's something when we leave our bodies, the prana leaves.
Hmm.
So um, I've only experienced a couple people dying, sadly, but you kind of do, if you're conscious of it, I think you really see it. You feel it leave the room, and then the
Yeah.
body just decompresses.
Yeah. Int-
Um, so it moves with our breath, and wherever the breath goes, the prana goes.
Would this be like, the like soul that we describe here in like the Western world, like your soul leaves, or is this something different?
I think it's more like electricity
Okay.
in your body. Yeah, it definitely has to do with our soul.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so I'm sure you've been to yoga classes where the teachers say, breathe into your pain.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you're trying to send this pranic energy as a healing modality to whatever hurts. And once you can begin to move the prana after practice, after a while, you begin to do pranayama practice for a little while. You begin to feel like, oh, I can send it to my toothache.
Yeah.
I can send it to my hip flexor. And maybe it's all psychological. A lot of it probably is.
The brain
I
is powerful.
find that it works.
Yeah.
And
I,
they're doing this for 5,000 years in India. So this knowledge isn't new.
yeah. I mean, when you deliver babies and, go through, it's all about breathing and doing all that.
Yeah.
Getting a painful procedure, we tell our patients, take deep breaths. So, maybe we're telling them to breathe into the pain.
And the ancient text, the Hatha Yoga Pradikapa, really goes into pretty deep explanation of this. Um, so, so pranayama, prana, is a vital breath. It's the subtle essence of the life force that animates each of us. It infuses every cell tissue throughout our bodies, and it's carried or stimulated by the breath. Um, some of the people say, well, I breathe, but beginning to become conscious of your breath is a different situation. Um, and so, look, we can live for weeks without food or without water for a few days, but not without air.
Mm-mm.
And um, pranayama is the art of paying attention to your breathing. Um, it gets, whoops, it gets stored in your bones and muscles, and it enters our body with our breath and our senses.
Mm.
Um, so I was taught, I think this is in the ancient text, there's 9 gates of prana. So you can get prana through your eyes, through things you're looking at. So it's not just breath, through things you hear. So through your 2 ears, smells through your nostrils, um, through your mouth from food and different intake things, through your genitals, and through your anus. is where this healing energy can enter. And there's 72,000 nadis, or nerve systems, in the subtle body. But it breaks down, um, the three really most important ones are the Ida, the Pingala, and the Shoshana. And the Ida is the one that starts in your root chakra, your base of your spine, runs up through your body, and ends in your left nostril. The Pingala does the opposite and ends in your right nostril. And I always think it's fascinating that it's the two Kundalini snakes coming up makes the icon for Western medicine.
Yeah,
And each place where they cross is a chakra.
that is, I didn't know that. You taught me something.
So, so the Ida represents more feminine things. So
And
it's
that's
more cooling. It's
the
your
left nostril.
the left side.
Okay.
It's so the moon, water. Um, look, we both have masculine and feminine in our bodies, but this is the more cooling, and it's the parasympathetic nervous system gets activated when you're breathing more through your left nostril. So in a more physical Western healing way, we can begin to think that way. How, because we're always trying to lower stress. And the Pingala, so the Pingala is the more masculine energy, comes up and ends on the right side, which is more heating and a little more masculine. And that stimulates our sympathetic nervous system, and it regulates appetite, digestion, or Agni in Ayurvedic terms. And I want to do our next podcast about Agni,
Yeah.
because Agni is a digestive fire, and it's every organ has an Agni.
So can I ask you something? This
Yeah,
is
that's how we're. Yeah.
yeah, let me ask you. So this is for me. We all, we've since I've known you, we've been doing the different nostril breathing.
Yeah.
What's the word for it? Why can't I think of it?
Well, Nadi Shodhana, or just alternate nostril breathing. Yeah.
Alternate nostril breathing. And I've always had a hard time breathing out of my left nostril. The right is very open, and the left, I feel like I have to open my mouth or, open my right to breathe out of my left. Would that explain why I'm sympathetic stressed all the time? Could
It
that be
might.
one reason?
I mean, I guess it could have something to do with that. We'll have to figure out how.
Yeah.
Maybe before you do pranayama practice, try doing the neti pot
Yeah.
to open up both sides. Because theoretically, you're supposed to open up each side for 20 minutes and then it switches to the other side, at least during your sleep cycle.
Okay. So,
Um,
so theoretically, I should be getting both even.
yeah. And we'll talk about this a little more, but when you get them even, it pushes the energy into the central channel. Your Shoshana it's a subtle spine. And
Hmm.
then it gets kind of, and if you've always, of course, you've been in a yoga class where you had to bounce your butt on the floor 5 times, 3 times or something to
Yeah.
awaken Kundalini.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, pushing this energy into the spine begins to move the Kundalini energy up towards your crown chakra. So towards, I mean, enlightenment, I don't, and towards a more enlightened, open, less state, less attached to the physical,
Got it.
which is, I guess, for a lot of people are trying to achieve.
Yeah. Sounds lovely.
Um, and back to the Ida in your pranayama practice, if you're in the winter time, in the summertime, I mean, you're too overheated, you're really hot, you can just do breathing through your left nostril if it is opened.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other ones too. You can breathe over your tongue, but there is left nostril breathing, and 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 if you're too cold in the wintertime, you can do right nostril breathing. And if you need to stimulate your sympathetic nervous system for whatever reason, I mean, we don't want to make us not fight or flight,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes we need stimulation in our sympathetic nervous system.
Right.
So you would breathe through the right nostril. Um, Maybe your appetite's really low and you need some heat. I mean, I have a lot of pits in my body, so I do goofy things in the summertime. If I'm really overheated, we sit out with my grandson and we do moon bathing.
Wow, that sounds nice.
Well, I mean, we'll, we'll sit out for a few minutes, like, come on, man, let's go look at the moon. And he's always like doing stuff with me.
That's so great. That's
Um,
great.
and another interesting thing, so the Ida in Sanskrit is Ha, and the moon, I mean, is Ha, and the Ida. And the Pingala is Spa, is the sun. So
Okay.
that's where the term Hatha comes from.
Got it.
So when you're combining the east, the two, the hot and the cold,
Yeah.
you're making a unified body, which is Hatha Yoga, which we don't call it that as much anymore, but it's really the background of most of the yoga we practice in the United States. Um, so alternate nostril breathing helps balance the nervous system,
Mm-hmm.
and it can help you with temperature regulation. And I think, I mean, you've probably felt it because you've tried it. Sometimes we feel really wired, and we're sad or anything. Sitting down
Mm-hmm.
to do a little bit of alternate nostril breathing can really be helpful. So alternate nostril breathing works more directly with the Ida and the Pingala, and it's a powerful means of clearing accumulated tension, relieving stress, preserving vital energy, and supporting an improved mental disposition in the face of everyday stressors. Um, and the prana has an affinity with everything in our organism. And so if we begin to push that pranic energy into the sushoma, I mean, especially when you're meditating.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could sit and even visualize that prana moving up and down your spine, I think it could be really healthy.
Yeah.
So during meditation practice, we hope to move the energy into the central channel and up through our spine. Um, Eventually, we want to move the energy to our crown chakra. We want to see that 1,000 petal lotus,
Mm-hmm.
um, which lives there. And there's also three things they teach in yoga teacher trainings and stuff. Three granthis, they're called. So three knots, and in our spine that you have to pierce to get the Kundalini energy to move up.
Okay.
Like I said, these are all subtle things. You can't prove it, you can't photograph it, you can't.
And do you pierce them by doing like yoga stretches and things like that? Or how does one
I
pierce them?
think it's the sadhana, just practice.
Okay.
Um, and definitely the pranayama practice, yoga practice.
Yeah.
Um, and moving us, so we want to eventually move towards, less attachment to the physical world.
Mm-hmm.
Something else really interesting. So prana, you want to get to move up. And the opposite of prana, and it's part of the vata dosha, is apana. So there's 5 subcategories to each dosha. So apana is the downward movement of
Okay.
everything. So it's your digestive stuff, menstruation, elimination, everything like that.
Okay.
Um, and prana is symbolized by an upward pointed triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Apana is a downward pointed triangle. And they put them on top of each other to make a 6-pointed star, which is really interesting. And it's the balanced body. So I said, I mean, all these things I find fascinating. I don't,
Interesting.
it comes from the ancient text. People were thinking about this stuff a long time ago.
Yeah. It's amazing. Um, and so I guess how and when in life can one like achieve this? You know, going up the spine and like how does one feel? I guess let me ask you, have you ever felt this or like how can one feel this and what does it feel like when you get the
I
prana?
mean, I've had glimpses of a very beautiful state of mind. They last about a second,
Mm-hmm.
where you just feel right. And you can not even have to be doing a practice. You could be just treating a client, patient, anything, where it just, ah, this just feels good, which I guess that's that feeling.
Got
Um,
it.
and so the chief aim of pranayama is to unite the prana with the apana, the up and down energy. Um, and it awakens a sleeping kundalini. Excuse me. Um, a little different from kundalini yoga, so it's not just a, kind of, which I respect for that too, but it's waiting that's sleeping snake.
Got it.
Um, and you asked like how we could do it. I think meditation practice, definitely pranayama practice.
Mm-hmm.
Beginning to put in your routine,
Mm-hmm.
um, a 15 or 20-minute pranayama practice a day, which look,
Seems
all this stuff takes time, but
yeah.
we talked yesterday about resonance breathing for a minute,
Mhm.
just as a stress reliever. And
Yeah.
resonance breathing, it's I guess it's not a classical pranayama practice, but it definitely affects our vagal nervous system,
Right.
which we all want that. We all want to just chill for a few minutes and teach our body just to breathe slower.
Right. And I think, like you said, breathing is something that we are not conscious of because we just automatically do it. And when you become more mindful of your breathing and more conscious of it, it becomes a more meditative effect. And breathing in for 5 and out for 7, or, whatever you have to do. Like it is. I mean, that's really how I calm myself. I teach my kids and a few minutes of it. It's like all it takes for me. And it's, a world of
Yeah,
difference.
doesn't take long,
No,
and it works.
it works. Yeah.
If you can't sleep, sometimes it's good practice to do. And so, on a physiological level, prana is stimulated by the diaphragm, and um, stress-related poor diaphragmatic function or upper chest breathing compromises the ability of the diaphragm to fully contract and relax, which makes more adrenaline and more cortisol and um, makes us more wired. And the diaphragm is the largest. Well, you correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I've been taught the diaphragm is the one of the largest, if not the largest muscle in the body.
I have to go back to my anatomy class, but it seems pretty.
And it's the only muscle that's really in charge of breathing the air we need to live and thrive with. And a weak diaphragm causes shallow breathing and the rib cage that tightens with each breath. So it
Hmm.
really becomes a cage. So, that, I think it's like a balloon with its elasticity um, doesn't squeeze properly. And the long-term emotional effects of this are just becoming more understood. But shallow breathing, we know, causes more stress hormones to release. And um, the deeper breathing into your parasympathetic nervous system definitely helps eliminate stress. And another thing, we don't have a pump for our, I said all these things, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm a medical, but um,
Yeah.
I don't think we have a pump like the heart for our lymphatic system. And we have to move the lymph to be
Hmm.
healthy. And the diaphragm's a great pump for the
Yeah.
lymphatic system. And trying to just clean our bodies, clean our cells,
Yeah.
clean out the waste, helping the immune system. And I think there's studies that like a congested lymph with breast cancer and stuff. But I don't want to get in over my head. Um, But the diaphragm is also the primary pump around the belly, for the lymph around the belly, where the majority of the body, where the lymph lives. And congestion here due to weak diaphragmatic function is linked to bloat and carrying weight around the belly and hips, which we know doesn't have the best consequences. And I've, I love, over the past 10 years, I've developed a pranayama practice, but like Debbie's always telling me I'm too fat, and I am. Definitely have to take off some weight.
Oh,
But
Harry.
but my belly is like hard as a rock from all the diaphragmatic work. Because I really try to do my Kapalabhati, pumping or like a bellows breath, just hard in and out, moving my diaphragm. And I've learned that even could help with your helping pump insulin out. Helps with your pancreas. You're just moving all this great stuff around.
Interesting.
So yeah, so I think the studies have linked the strengthening of the diaphragm to better sleep, better breathing, exercise tolerance, blood pressure, acid digestion, breast health, lymphatic function, immunity, and more. And by controlling your active breathing, you can efficiently control the various motions of the body and the different nerve currents that are running through the body. And pranayama specifically supports heart health too, by calming and purifying the mind.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can easily and quickly control and develop the body, mind, and soul through breath control and the control of prana. And it's through pranayama that you can control your circumstances and character and can consciously harmonize the individual life with the cosmic life.
I wonder too, like, I'm just like listening to you and kind of learning from this, but if somebody, I'm just thinking about, my patients who, I'm trying to get them to exercise and to do all these things, but if there's a patient who's this involved in just something that we take for granted for like breathing, like focused on breathing. And like, if they're that involved on their breathing, they're probably more so, in tune to what they're eating and how they're exercising and how their stress levels are. And so that, all around like increases the prana and the life force. And, you're an overall healthier person just by, you know, I mean, this is what I'm thinking. And maybe there's some people that just want to focus on the breathing and not everything else. But, you know, it takes a very dedicated person to have this, lifestyle. And so you would think that, their overall health is probably better. Anyways, I'm curious.
I I'm, I think pranayama to me is easier than a meditation practice. Although I don't get me wrong, I love meditating. But
Yeah.
sitting and focusing on your breath for a few minutes, you're present.
Yeah.
You're really here now. It's
Yeah, I
and I
could.
think that's really helpful. So yeah, I think your patients, if we could, I'll be happy to help to get them on some start out with this resonance breathing on
Yeah.
that app, the breathing app. It's so easy. It's if you have an iPhone, it's free. Or maybe they charge a couple dollars now. And
Yeah.
do it for 10, if you could do it for 5 or 10 minutes a day, they'll
Yeah.
feel the difference right away, and it's going to make them feel better.
And is that like a form of meditation anyways, right?
I guess. Resonance breathing, I'm not sure how they really define it because it's not really a pranayama either. But
Yeah.
you're definitely affecting the vagal nerve, which is going to
Yeah. Yeah.
and have so many amazing health effects if your vagal nerve is under control.
Right.
Thyroid stuff, and it affects so many different things. Your pancreas. I think it affects your.
No, it does. It
I'm
really.
blanking, but it.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking about a patient who, we think has some vagal nerve dysfunction and, just everything that she's going through health wise, and we can kind of link it back all to that. So,
Yeah, have her do this. Just try it. It's a be fun experiment.
yeah, I will. I will. I'm seeing her this
Um,
week. This is good.
Good.
Yeah.
Um, so the last thing I'm looking at some notes I made, so I just ended this with the breath directed by thought under the control of the will is a vitalizing, regenerating force, which you can utilize consciously for self-development, for healing many incurable diseases in your system, and for healing others for other various useful purposes. And you know how I like to study the mental stuff, like Ayurvedic psychology. I think, look, if you can get people on board here,
Yeah.
and they will feel, it's kind of easy. They'll feel better right away. This is pretty instant.
Yeah.
Alternate
Right.
nostril breathing, even for 2 minutes, and you don't have to do breath holds in the beginning.
Yeah.
Um, Eventually they would do the breath holds and they would increase the CO2, which there's a different kind of relaxation and increases the oxygen in your bloodstream.
And how long is one supposed to do this, like alternate nostril breathing? Like, what's a good amount of time?
I mean, you could start them with 5 rounds, just
Okay.
and we'll do a pranayama class. Maybe
Okay.
we could organize one, but you know the Kapalabhati breathing, just a forceful exhale, is just great too. And we'll do one in the yoga class that we're going to try to do next week.
Okay. Awesome.
Um, and because that takes away, so each one of these two takes away, balances different dosha stuff. So Kapalabhati, the forceful exhale, and bellows breath, those kind of breathing tech, they definitely lower kapha because you're creating heat. Left nostril breathing lowers pitta. The breathing over your tongue, lowers pitta.
Mhm.
Um, Alternate nostril breathing is great for balancing vata
Got it.
because it just is taking people down a notch.
Yeah. I
And
need to,
vata is responsible for 80% of what goes wacky in our bodies. So
yeah. Yeah. What am I? Mostly Vata?
I think we all have a lot of vata.
Yeah. Like I'm like mostly Vata. That's just,
Well, physically, the curly hair, you're thin, there's
Yeah.
vata tendencies, dark hair.
You need to do that alternate nostril breathing more often.
You should.
Yeah. Yeah. Got to work on breathing through my left side though. Got to figure that out.
Did you ever have a deviated septum?
No, I've been to ENTs. Everything looks really good. Um, they think it's like like the nasal valve is collapsing. The septum is fine. And there's, surgery that you can do, and I don't know if I'm there yet.
I would
But
try to do neti every
yeah,
day first.
yeah. The problem
And
is
see,
it doesn't go through. It used to go through. It used to go through. It doesn't go through anymore. It backs up.
well, maybe, try, little by little, try to open it up again.
Yeah, no, I've
And
tried.
maybe you would have to get the surgery.
Yeah, I know. I thought about it just so I could do this. It sounds like it would be life changing. I'm like, so I remember when we were, with Ed and talking about it and, doing all of that. And that was actually at the time I went to the ENT because I was like, I have to fix this so I can do my alternate nostril breathing.
Yeah.
And, they were like, well, there's not much you can do really, but we'll see. But, hopefully, other people can get this going right now. And, I'll work on it. I'll work on it on my end.
There's one teacher, I mean, Ayurvedic, she's a Chinese medical doctor and an Ayurvedic practitioner, Claudia Welsh, who
Okay.
always says, she goes, like, don't confuse people with your hand motions and stuff. Just tell yourself you're breathing through your left nostril and breathing out through the right. And then tell yourself you're breathing in through the right and breathing out through the left. So maybe that would be a way to start.
Good idea. That's a good idea. I like it. Tricking the brain a little.
Yeah, she wrote a great book called um, balancing your hormones, balancing your life, like a really good women's
Huh,
uh, book.
cool. I'll have
Yeah.
to check it out. Yeah.
All right. Well, good. I don't want to keep people on for too long because they won't.
Thanks for this wealth of information. This was really cool.
Yeah, I hope it was good.
Yeah.
And I want to do Agni next,
Okay.
which
That-
is just it's a fire in your belly, which we can spread to every organ. So there's a liver Agni. I mean, every organ has an Agni, and to keep those organs happy, you need every cell has Agni.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Can't wait to talk about it and learn more.
All right. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Oops.